Hello, and welcome to our weekly ICT4D conference podcast. My name is Sonja Ritzel from CRS, and I'm interviewing experts for you to talk about digital development trends, innovations, and good practice. Today is World Food Day, and it's a pleasure for me to interview Deepak Pareek to talk about digital agriculture and emerging technologies, especially supporting farmers during the pandemic. Deepak, could you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot for this opportunity to address your awesome audience. I'm Deepak Pareek. I'm founder of DigiAgri and ex-founder of Microp, two companies which worked on ground with farmers from Southeast Asia going all the way to Africa, trying to help them increase their profitability and productivity using some of the cutting edge technologies, including artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data analytics, remote sensing. The idea is very simple: more crop per drop, per acre, per farmer, and per dollar.
Thank you. And given your extensive experience in digital agriculture, particularly with emerging technologies, I would like to ask you specifically how we could better support farmers during this current COVID-19 pandemic, and what kind of trends are you seeing in terms of using digital tools to support awareness of COVID-19 messages to the rural community, and also other ways to support ongoing programming and business?
Yeah, sure. So actually the typical trends I've seen in past 6 months, since March, I've been interacting with farmers across mostly developing countries, India, Nepal, Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines. One trend I can very easily see is that they want to adopt community tools like WhatsApp a lot. So typically, if you see that, the solutions which want to serve farmers, they need to move their solution in form of automated bots, which can use WhatsApp infrastructure to deliver message to the farmer. So for them to download a new application and understand that application, and the learning curve is a little bit steep, so they prefer getting the solution in form of WhatsApp messages. So that's one trend which I'm seeing, that the adoption is close to month on month I've seen 18 to 20%, with more and more farmers getting into the WhatsApp groups and sharing a lot of information within them. Second thing which I've seen is that there was a lot of stress because of broken supply chains. Farmers were stressed to sell their output, because in some of these countries there was harvest season when the COVID led to a lot of lockdowns in some of the countries, and the biggest challenge was selling their produce. And again, we found that sharing images, parameters of the crop through social media channels, including WhatsApp, Facebook, that help farmer to sell a lot of their produce. Some of the farmers are progressive enough that actually they created for their village a Facebook page, and they started putting whatever the produce was available for that village. And we supported them by helping them learn these digital technology in a faster way than otherwise they would have. So basically the whole idea is that the collaborative approach, where more farmers coming together and we delivering them the solution on the platform they are already, rather than creating a new application to reach out to the farmers. They are on Facebook, reach them on Facebook. If they are on WhatsApp, reach them on WhatsApp. Now that is a part of the delivery. As part on the backend side, what are the services they are looking at? First thing is that they are very keen to get the insights which are actionable. So for example, in case I'm having a specific type of pest detection, what I'm supposed to do, that actionable insight they need to be delivered to them, rather than telling them about a long process of good agriculture practices. So they are looking at actionable insight. That's one. Second, there is also a growing trend in where actually farmers, cooperatives, they're trying to buy or rent tools like drones for doing the spraying on their farms, so that they can reduce their own exposure on the field, and one drone can take care of spraying fields of 4 or 5 small and marginal farmers. So that is the second trend which I'm seeing, that automation, but the automation using digital technologies like drones and bots. Third area which I see that farmer getting, I'll say that more attuned to digital technology, is that the collection of their own information. Previously, the farmers were not very keen to share right information about them. Now they are very, very keen to share what they are growing, how much land they are growing, and they are also okay to do the geolocation using the application of their field, so that whether or the using remote sensing, the actionable insight can be delivered to them. So these are 3 areas broadly which I see becoming a big plus for the farmers during these COVID times. Now coming to the about sending the message of COVID and how to respond to COVID on the health side. Again, WhatsApp and Facebook, I believe, are the tools which farmers have adopted. So those are the good tools for reaching out to the farmers. And even the penetration of these tools have increased substantially in rural economy, rural communities.
Thank you. That has been a wonderful overview of different trends, reaching from communication, behavioral technology, social media to automation and remote sensing. You covered a big ground, and we can see a lot of things are happening. As you already mentioned at the beginning, particularly adaptation and user-centered design are very crucial at the moment to change to the current situation and changing situations, as well as to the specific needs of farmers. Could we talk a little bit more about this? So particularly, how are you seeing services being adapted to the new COVID-related information or provide solutions to COVID-related market disruptions? Also, how to better understand or respond to changing farmers' needs with real-time feedback mechanisms?
Yeah, sure. So you got it very right. Adoption becomes a big challenge when we talk about digital agriculture technologies, or even reaching out with a digital solution to rural communities. One of the reason is that actually because of their understanding of these technologies limited, the trust is a little bit lacking. So adoption is only possible if you initiate giving them some value where their actually financial cost is not there. So whenever, for example, when I said WhatsApp, because there is no cost at the farmer side, they are okay to test it and then start using the services. When they see value, they are also ready to pay for the services. So the adoption will happen. First, we have to work on a typical model where it is a freemium model, where actually initially there is no upfront cost to the farmers. Second thing is that we have to keep whatever services we are delivering them of immediate value. Okay, that in case it is either making their life a little bit comfortable, where they don't need to venture out too much out of their house. For example, delivering agri inputs to their doorstep. So typically agri input e-commerce is picking up. Secondly, which makes them more productive when in farm. If they already know that actually not every day I have to go to check the moisture of my soil, I'll get a trigger message saying that today I need to go and irrigate. They love that because that reduces their activity on field, and that makes them more productive. And third area of adoption, which I believe is key to them, is that trying to make everything very, very simple and intuitive, rather than them to be going through a lot of menus, or I've seen in some of the application where you have created very, very complex menus for them to understand. Something should be on, I'm saying that immediately, easily actionable is what the typically rural communities are looking forward to. Again, coming to about the COVID, challenge is that you'll find that the rural communities, they have a biggest challenge of physical infrastructure, right? So when we have to reach out to them, physically, it becomes a little bit of constraint. Digital technologies can reduce that, the part to the end user in the rural community. And that is what I believe should be the focus of when we are trying to deliver services to the farmers, and specific providing them the updates on the healthcare, providing them the right way of doing the farm meetings, providing them the updates about in case somebody is showing the symptoms, how to track those symptoms and what action need to be taken depending on the local administrative processes. So all those things need to be delivered to them, and I'll say that scalable opportunity of using digital technology to do that for sure.
Thank you. You just mentioned as well, supporting the digital COVID response and updating information around healthcare. And very much I see with your work, it's a very multi-sectoral approach and a very focus also on partnerships, which is becoming more and more important and pertinent for our sector, and specifically now during the pandemic. So I would like to talk to you a little bit more about this multi-sectoral approach. What can be learned from other sectors like the health or education sector? And if you had some insights on how the agricultural sector and maybe specifically how INGOs could better collaborate with the tech sector.
When you take a multi-sectoral or multi-participant approach, then only you'll be able to solve some deep-rooted problems of agriculture. So it's very, very critical that actually there are collaboration, there are partnership. See, one of the reason, if you see in past 6 or 7 years, a lot of promising technologies, they were piloted, but they didn't picked up. One of the strong reason behind that was that actually because they were focused on one part of the problem and tried to solve those problems and without much of collaboration. So it ended up creating a model which works in a very specific type of scenarios. And that has led to where the scalability become a big challenge. When we take an approach, for example, we did it in like state in Gujarat, in India called Gujarat, where we work with the farmers growing potatoes, where we involved typically development agencies, we involve input companies, we involve output companies, farmers, extension services providers, and the government bodies. When all of them were on the same platform and they started working with the farmers, we were able to increase their profitability by 18%. And that's scaling very fast now. The reason being that actually when you are having a win-win situation for multi-stakeholder people, then actually your possibility of deploying resources become very, very huge. And that has been a big challenge when we talk about digitization of agriculture, because there is a between $8 to $16 per annum cost of digitization itself. Now farmer cannot pay that because most of the farmers across the world, specifically 150 odd countries, which are developing countries, they cannot afford paying those $8 or $16 per annum for digitization. Governments are also having a limited resource that they cannot deploy that amount of money to digitize farmer. So somebody has to foot that bill. When you are having multi-stakeholder approach, that value get distributed at the same time, the costs also get distributed. Hence, it creates a better possibility of scaling it up because now there is a win-win situation for everyone. NGOs would be playing a very, very vital role here because while doing all this multi-participant approach, the challenge is the trust. So when an input company tried to be the owner of such a collaborative project or a network, right, there is always farmer concern that actually would it be pro input, similarly pro output or pro government. When there is an NGO which is actually trying to lead this initiative, automatically the trust factor comes in because NGO goes with the mindset of that they are not in there for profit. So I strongly believe that INGOs in going forward, they need to basically collaborate with tech companies, create along with them viable projects, and then bring on other stakeholders, showing win-win situation to them. And then any sort of technology can be rolled out and fine-tuned and made successful. I'll give you an example of blockchain-based solution. Now it's beautiful. It gives transparency. It gives fairness to the trade of agriculture. Now to deploy it, you cannot be just either a farmer or a tech company or an input company. You need to have a basically multi-stakeholder approach. And those type of things would, I believe that if NGOs are able to drive it, would lead to scalable, successful result in digital agriculture.
Thank you. That's a very fantastic explanation of the role and importance of INGOs in this sector. We only have very limited time for this interview, and I would just like to ask you one final question. And particularly, I want to ask you, what is your future outlook, especially now with the current trend of digitization? You already mentioned some very interesting statistics on the increase of the use of technologies. Do you see this as an opportunity to rethink the agricultural value chain and partnerships, particularly around ICT for ag, and maybe even an opportunity to disrupt some more traditional agricultural extension systems for a more effective approach?
Yeah, 100%. I believe today we are standing at point of, I'll say that success or a failure. Our world would be defined by what we do today. So if we see that actually what we have been doing so far, that we have ended up in a situation where we are having close to 850 million people going to bed without 2 square meals, and we are having close to 500 million farmers who are in severe poverty, right? And that is what we have been able to create so far. Now, to undo that, we'll have to bring in disruption. And disruption is only possible when you use technology. For very simple, we need to make the agriculture value chain fair, fast, and fresh. And that is only possible when we are able to deploy these technologies in a way where it is profitable for the farmer. At the same time, it reduces the inefficiency and shorten the supply chains. And finally, get safe and secure food for the end user. Now here what I believe is that going forward, our future, I believe in future, in next 10 years, you'll find 80% of the farmers across the world would be using digital tools in one way or another, right? So that will lead to creating a lot of data, context, and hence insight for everybody to see, making this trade more transparent, which is the need of the hour. We have lived too long in opacity in agriculture value chains, where the person who is eating the food is not safe or secure or not, and at the same time farmer is not getting the fair price. Now this is gonna end, I see, in next 10 years, because if we are not able to do that, believe me, we are having far bigger challenges on our hands, because 28% of the land used today is used for the food which would be going to a dustbin, right? We are having very inefficient value chain. Secondly, if you see that only 18% of the final cost of the produce which you purchase from the supermarket goes to the farmer, who puts 80% of economical effort. So these are not sustainable. This is only possible when we have digital technologies reshaping the whole industry, and that is what I believe the future is all about.
That is, a very bright look of the future. I really hope you're right. And I know we didn't really have time now to talk about digital literacy and how we support the understanding of the technology and the use and distribution of technology, but that might be a discussion for another time. Thank you so much for all your insights. I thought that was very interesting.
Thanks, pleasure is mine, and wish you a very, very happy World Food Day.
And thank you all out there for tuning in. More information about our upcoming podcasts and webinars can be found on our website, ictfood.conference.org. Hope you will join us again next week.